IVM.
This episode delves into Tamil Nadu politics and more specifically the relationship between late Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha and her political aide V.K. Sashikala. The late Chief Minister Jayalalitha was a force to be reckoned with, and across her 6 terms as Chief Minister of the state, she implemented numerous initiatives that brought Tamil Nadu back from the brink of economic collapse. Even today, 5 years after her unfortunate demise, we remember her constant efforts towards upliftment of mothers and girl children, towards significantly improving infrastructure across the state, towards generous benefits and subsidies for farmers and agriculturists, and towards affordable food and housing, and several other welfare programs. In this episode, we'll be speaking about certain alleged activities with her regards to being charged for amassing wealth disproportionate to her income, which includes allegations around conspiracy by V.K. Sashikala. Relevant to this episode is the political climate of Tamil Nadu during this period, which includes those of her mentor, the late former Chief Minister Dr. M.G. Ramachandran, and prominent leaders of the opposition party at the time, which also happens to be the current ruling party of the state. Please note that the leaders must be referred to by their official titles as former Chief Minister Jayalalitha, former Chief Minister M. Karunanidhi, and former Chief Minister Dr. M.G. Ramachandran. However, for ease of listening on this platform, we have mentioned only their first names. We emphasize that neither we nor IVM has any political affiliations whatsoever, and everything discussed here has been taken from various media sources. All of these sources will be found on our blog, along with an outline of this episode.
Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime? Well, we're here to tell you. There's misconduct all the time. Women are thieves and murderers.
That's gross misconduct.
Con artists, money launderers.
Criminal misconduct.
Financial fraud that's hard to track.
Takes some planning, but still misconduct.
Even breaching a contract.
Well, that's more civil though.
It's misconduct. Misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck. Things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, and welcome to Misconduct. As you know, we are a show that talks about women that allegedly did some crimes. You know what? If they actually did the crime, we would say that they did, but we don't say that if it was only alleged. And sometimes it's alleged because we're just scared of saying anything else, even if the highest court in the land said that it wasn't actually alleged. Anyway, Nisha and I have lives to lead, so whatever happened today is just alleged. That's it.
Are you done saying alleged?
No, never. I will say it till my last dying breath because that's how scared I am.
As will I, because on this week's episode, we are talking about 2 women that revolutionized the Indian political landscape, particularly when it came to Dravidian politics. The first woman is the late former Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha, a former actress and 6-time Chief Minister of the Indian state of Tamil Nadu between 1991 and 2016. And the General Secretary of one of the biggest parties of the state, the All India Anna Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, or the AIADMK, or as a lot of the Tamil news channels call it, Athimuka.
Yep.
And the other woman is V.K. Sashikala, a close aide and confidant of Jayalalitha, a politician and the General Secretary of the Athimuka after Jayalalitha's death in 2016. Now, when we say we're talking about these women, there's a lot more to it than like sensational story about their alleged misdeeds.
That's right. Oh, also, this is a 2-parter episode because there is just too much to talk about to keep it all in one episode. So it's going to be 2 episodes of whatever they did.
Yes. So this is the first time we'll be talking about 2 women together. Actually, their relationship, their fondness for each other, their common political and professional ambitions, their work as politicians, and how they supported each other despite like the overwhelming forces against them.
That's right.
Also, a case of alleged misuse of public office so severe that it was alleged that between 1991 and 96, Jayalalitha and her aides had amassed properties and assets worth over 66 crore rupees, which is about like 300 crore rupees in 2020. Something like 40 million US dollars. Ooh, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of moolah. This case was so massive, so sensationalized, and so critical to how Tamil Nadu politics would be viewed over the next 2 decades, and we can't even begin to describe how insane it was. This case started in 96 with allegations filed by an Indian politician, Subramania Swamy. The investigation began in Chennai, was then moved to a court in Bangalore due to allegations of unfairness against Jayalalitha and Sashikala. In the middle, the Athimuka, led by Jayalalitha, and the opposition party, Timuka, were fighting it out on the home ground of Tamil Nadu over who would lead the state. This is actually kind of a common thing for Tamil Nadu, where voters would often swing vote, and it was reasonable to assume that either party would win, and such is the beauty of our democracy. In 2014, the special court in Bangalore convicted Jayalalitha, Sashikala, and some of their aides of all charges, forcing Jayalalitha to resign as chief minister. In 2015, the Karnataka High Court dismissed all of the charges. In 2016, Jayalalitha unfortunately passed away while incumbent chief minister of the state. And in 2017, the Supreme Court of India finally upheld the special court ruling and convicted Sashikala and her aides. Jayalalitha's case was dismissed on account of her death. And that's just a very brief, very quick timeline of whatever happened between 1991, 2017, because it was 26 very, very long years.
Yeah. And by the way, all of this was during some insanely sort of overwhelming public and political pressure that was on all of the parties that were involved. So South Indian politics, it's a really tricky animal, okay? And we're not remotely saying that we're experts in any way of South Indian politics. In fact, we are absolutely 100% terrified to do this episode because that is the kind of fan base that these women have. And most of us can't really comprehend that sort of, worship that they get. So just remember, though, that these two women also fought against immense odds to make it to the positions that they were in. They were told by just about every single vaguely politically important person around them that they were not at all equipped to be in the party, let alone leading it, or going on to become the chief minister and the general secretary of the party. And the fact is, maybe they were right, maybe Jayalalitha and Sashikala's combined influence, especially now, we feel has been marred by several allegations of corruption and mismanagement and government funds, etc. But there's also this other side of them where it's clear, there are very clear indicators that Jayalalitha herself has done so much for the Tamil population, including some crazy welfare schemes. They were so generous, and they were so well thought out that they were replicated as models in other states, So it's this very weird situation that Nisha and I are currently in with respect to how we deal with these two women. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I get it completely. Also, FYI, this is a true crime podcast. So crime stuff. So yeah, the podcast is not meant for children. Listener discretion is advised. Also, we really, really recommend that everyone check out all our sources for this episode on our blog. There is not one word that we will say here that doesn't have a source, because we all about the references. Also, we value our lives and livelihood.
Yeah.
But yes, as Raghavi was saying, we don't know how to approach the subject without fangirling about Jayalalitha. The fact is, South Indian representation in mainstream political discussions has been kind of random, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we are not any political pundits in any way. So to speculate about the nature of South Indian politics is not something that we want to do either. Tamil Nadu politics in itself is kind of tricky to approach. So I think the only way to make sure that, we keep it in check, I guess, is to just call out each other whenever we fangirl about Jayalalitha, even accidentally. Is that okay, Raghavi?
Yep, that sounds good. If either of us are talking about her and we sort of we're into a space where we're idolizing her, let's just please say, stop fangirling.
Okay, perfect. That's our safe word.
Okay.
Stop fangirling. So also we'll cover a bit more about South Indian politics a bit later as well. So just so it helps you understand where she was coming from and what happened with the whole disproportionate assets case.
Oh, God, dude.
What?
There's going to be so much context setting for this episode, man.
Hey, you chill, man. I'll also help you. Don't worry. I've got the hang of it.
What? Okay, listen. You didn't get the hang of it. What you did is, a few episodes ago, you did it. And then you just loved how being the one setting context, how powerful it made you feel.
Yes, I am now drunk with power. Let's do this.
But yeah, before we get into the context setting itself, let's actually talk about the women. Let's get into talking about who these women are.
Done. So we start with the star of the show, that is J. Jayalalitha or Jairam Jayalalitha. She was born with the name Komalavalli on 24th February 1948 in Melkot, which is a part of the Mysore state at that time. So it would be in like the state of Karnataka today. Her parents were Jairam and Vedavalli, although her mom was also known as Sandhya. She was born into a Tamil Brahmin family and who were primarily Iyengars, and they focused a lot on education. I say focused on education because her paternal grandfather was a surgeon of the Mysore Maharaja during this time. And her maternal grandfather worked in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, which is pretty cool.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Jayalalitha also had an older brother, Jaykumar. Also, her name was given to her a bit later when she joined school.
Yeah, so that the name Jayalalitha was given to her much later. It's actually a really common practice to just casually change your name. Even, especially people often change their year of birth when they join school as well.
True.
I don't know why the name part of it. I understand the year. Maybe they had to get
into
kids to
school early. Yeah.
Exactly. But it was a thing in any case. I know a lot of people who are 60 years old and plus who did this a lot. So it's not a thing today, but it was quite a common practice then.
Yeah. She was affectionately referred to as Ammo at home, which is kind of cool because later on most people called her Amma. So, yeah. Also, it appears that her home life was not particularly loving or protective. Her father, Jairam, was a lawyer by profession, but there wasn't much money at home. When she was 2 years old, her father passed away. Sandhya, her mom, returned to her father's home in Bangalore in 1950 and took up odd jobs as a secretary. Till she was spotted by a Kannada film director who wanted to cast her in a movie. One thing that we do need to mention is that her family was just known for their good looks. There's this book by Vasanthi Sundaram called Amma, Jayalalitha's Journey from Movie Star to Political Queen. And it states that her mother's side of the family was beautiful with fair skin. And we all know how much fair skin is coveted in India.
You know what? As someone who doesn't have fair skin, but does have clear skin.
Oh, that's
I just want, thanks, dude. I just want to say, guys, your skin is beautiful. Your skin is a gift, but your skin is trash if you don't use sunscreen. Please wear sunscreen. I love you.
I also love you, maybe, but wear sunscreen. So Jayalalitha's beauty was very evident. While her mother worked in like small parts in films, Jayalalitha was excelling in school.
Right.
She was at the top of her class in 10th grade. She even got like Gold State Award for her academic prowess. And I'm just like, whoa, girl.
She was really smart. That's what, everybody says that, yeah.
At the same time, she was also extremely talented. Like, for one, she knew like 6 languages. She knew English, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Hindi, Malayalam. And I'm just like, yeah, girl, she was a polyglot. Makes me so proud because it's just so cool.
Okay, you're fangirling.
Damn it. Okay, fine. Also, Jayalalitha was very well trained in many classical art forms, including Carnatic music, classical piano, Bharatnatyam, Kathakali, Kuchipudi, Mohiniyattam, and Manipuri.
Oof, okay.
And all of them under like super famous gurus of their time. Her Arangetram, which happened in 1960s, it's basically when you debut for the first time as a professional dancer to the world. The chief guest was freaking Shivaji Ganeshan, who's like this hella famous, like yesteryear Tamil actor, and who would also go on to be her co-star in future films.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you know what? I get why you fangirled earlier. I'm sorry for calling you out on that. It's fine.
No. We decided that's our safe word.
Fine. Okay. All right, it stands. Go on.
So when Jayalalitha's mother decided that she should go into films, no one thought like this is unusual. So we're not going to go into too much detail about how, when, why, and all of that. In fact, you can just pick up any book about Jayalalitha and you will know just how successful she was as an actress.
That's true.
She started acting at 13 with her career just rising from like 1964. That's when her Kannada movie Karnan became a blockbuster hit. She would move on to Tamil films almost exclusively after this.
Yep.
And that's when Jayalalitha quit school entirely. She originally wanted to be a lawyer, but her mother stressed that, films is a better route for her. So she said, okay, let's do this.
So on that note, what extracurricular activities did you have?
Me? Well, my parents pushed me into a lot of things. One of them was art class. I started off there. And then my dad asked me to draw a leaf one day and I was getting ready to play. So I drew some rubbish and I left. He took one look at it and then he was like, "Unak aatla varadu." Basically means you can't draw. You try something else.
Fair.
So then I did piano. Or keyboard, whatever, which I know you did as well, Raghavi. So, but then I realized, hey, you can't just get on the thing and just be like the next A.R. Rahman. So, no thanks.
Also fair.
Yeah, the final thing that they put me in was Bollywood dancing. I remember dancing for this Dola Re dance once, and this one of my friends' dad just kept calling me Paro like all the time. Even now, he calls me Paro.
Aww, that's cute only. You ended it on a very cute note, so it's fine.
Not because I was good at it or anything. It's just because I was the only one with a different dress.
I think, yeah, like you said, I played the piano for a very long time. Easily, like I think 10-ish years. And I could still pick it up now. I think this podcast takes so much of my time that I don't know if piano and all is going to work out. Let's see. But another thing that I did learn for a very long time was needlework because, yeah, I can stitch anything. Like, I mean, I've stitched the curtains in my house. I can mend basic things. But the reason I took needlework is when I was in, I think, 9th standard, I wanted home economics, okay, as my co-curricular thing because I was told you will make sandwiches in that class. And I was like, that's a great way to get an extra meal in. But it was full. I didn't get allotted that. Then I got needlework instead. So instead of sandwiches, I got pinpricks on my fingers for the rest of the year. But it worked out, I guess. Guess who's laughing? Not me still, but yeah. From 1973, Jayalalitha would just act in a series of films with the then very, very established Tamil actor, Dr. Marthar Gopala Ramachandran, fondly known as MGR. Well, okay, he has a series of achievements, okay? We'll try to condense them here, even though that's basically impossible.
Yeah.
So he was a leading Tamil actor from 1936 to 1987, and he pumped out blockbuster movies with like many leading actresses of his time. He was, of course, also initiated into politics eventually by his good friend at the time, who is also late former Chief Minister, Dr. M. Karunanidhi. So you will see this nexus between movies and politics quite a bit, actually, over time in Tamil Nadu. Just the political scene there. Dr. MGR went on to serve as Chief Minister of the state 3 times before his untimely death in 1987. In fact, he is so popular that the Chennai Central Station, which is hundreds of years old, by the way, it's actually been renamed to Purichi Talaivar Dr. MGR Central Railway Station. And that's a big honor. That's a really, really important station. So Dr. MGR and Jayalalitha, they met in 1965. That's when they shot their first movie together, Ayirathil Oruvan. They would work professionally for many years after that. They put out just like one blockbuster movie after another. They were like the it couple of the time,
Yeah.
However, sometime in 1970, they sort of fell apart. She did join him later again in the 80s as part of his political campaigns and later as a member of parliament representing state. So Dr. MGR always had political ambitions. And remember when I said he was close to the late former Chief Minister, Dr. Karunanidhi?
Yeah.
So the two of them were actually this really formidable actor-writer combo in their younger years. And they also joined public office together. They started working under the first Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu State, which is the late Dr. C.N. Annadurai.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, they split up over professional and political differences. That's when Dr. MGR formed the AIDMK or the Adhimuka party, and Dr. Karunanidhi took over the reins of the DMK or the Timuka party. So MGR would remain the chief minister till his death in 1987. In June 1982, Jayalalitha joined the AIDMK and MGR became her mentor in politics. So her first real stint as a politician was as a member of the Rajya Sabha, which the MGR really pushed for this position because she was particularly fluent in English.
Correct.
So she was elected to the position in 1984 and she stayed there till 1989. So during this time, she faced immense opposition from the other members of the party, especially the male ones. And I know I say especially, but they were pretty much only male ones. There were nobody else. And realistically, dude, this was 1980s India, seeped in just sexism in the workplace, much like today.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't have mattered if Jayalalitha was good at her job. She was a capable leader. Nobody cared that her fluency in English is really why she was sent to the center, to be able to
Yeah.
negotiate those positions for the party. She would just be seen as a threat, it doesn't,
Yeah.
especially when MGR favored her so much, of course,
Yeah, and he did. He favored her quite a bit. Like she was given some very important responsibilities, even though she was like a newbie.
Yeah.
And she was given the like management of the entire midday meal scheme, which
Ooh.
fed children like one meal a day when they were in school. That's the whole. That's what the program is about. But we're saying it so simply. It's a huge welfare program, and it costs a lot of money. And logistically, it's a nightmare. But she did it, and like more power to her.
Oh, yeah, dude. We talk about logistical nightmare. Like,
Yeah.
as of today, there are 43,000 midday meal centers in the state. Okay.
Well, there
Yeah.
you go.
With over 4.8 million children being fed every single day.
Ooh.
I know. And I'm not saying this is entirely Jayalalitha's contribution. In fact, the midday meal existed before she came into politics.
Yeah,
But this particularly is indicative of the kind of work that Jayalalitha would do later,
Yeah.
especially,
yeah.
in welfare schemes. Like the Amma canteen, for subsidized
yeah?
meals. She subsidized rations and water supply. She gave working laptops for college students, baby kits, freebies from pharmacies, like even like 100 units of electricity. She was just basically this like insane welfare queen that was always on the lookout for the common man. It's quite nuts.
Raghavi, you're fangirling.
Fine. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, in any case.
Although the sambar sadam at the Amma canteen is pretty awesome.
I've eaten idli from the Amma canteen,
Oh,
which was quite good.
Yeah.
But I think it just came with chutney. Oh no.
yes, because
Right?
the sambar was used in the rice.
That's fair. That
No,
makes
I
a
don't know.
lot of
Actually,
sense.
I don't know that. But it was quite yum. For like
It is
initially
delicious.
when it started off, it was like 10 or 15 rupees, which is insane.
That's true.
Yeah,
Even though I
quite
think the idli was a rupee each, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, 1 rupee idli.
It was
Yeah,
1
that's what
rupee
it was.
idlis.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. Wow, we are both fangirling. Moving
Oh
forward.
my god. We suck.
So Jayalalitha's popularity definitely grew over time till 1987, which is when MGR passed away unexpectedly. Now, of course, because a major leader has fallen, there was a massive power struggle after this within the party. Jayalalitha wanted to place herself in the chief minister's role, but the other members of the AIDMK said nothing doing. And they instead nominated MGR's widowed wife, Janaki, to the role. So for a while, the party sort of split into these two factions. They eventually merged in 1989 when Janaki's faction, they were like, oh shit, I guess Jayalalitha is really popular.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. She really was. This is when the logo for the AIDMK party was devised. It's basically two leaves that sort of merged
Yes.
together. And it's green, of course, because they're leaves. And the logo is on everything that Jayalalitha would do after this. Like every single thing, including her TV channel, would have this logo.
Yeah.
That's right.
The irritate like.
Irritale, exactly. Two leaves. In 1989, Jayalalitha was elected to the Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly, but she didn't become the chief minister because her party didn't have a majority. So instead, she became the leader of the opposition, but she became the first woman to ever hold that position. But there was still like a consistent disdain for her, like both in, the AIDMK and the DMK as well, which was the ruling party at the time, by the way. DMK was the ruling party at the time. Or it got so bad that on 25th March 1989, when she was attending the assembly proceedings, a violent fight broke out in which multiple male members of the assembly beat and disrobed her as an act of vengeance.
Yeah, and that's quite terrifying a position to be in, just as a woman, but also just as an incident. It's just so jarring.
Of course it is, and it should have never happened.
Yeah.
And of course, condemning it from the get-go.
Yeah.
But now that it had happened, she kind of capitalized on it a little bit.
True.
And there's a pattern we'll see with her, like if she sees an instance of hardship, she will use it in some way or the other for some sort of political gain.
Yeah, and it worked, right? She was even able to use the way the media portrayed her to her advantage. Even if they had called, like whatever names they called her, even if they praised her or they didn't, she was still able to use that to her advantage to build her image. In this particular case, that one picture of her looking through her torn sari. So this was taken by an Indian Express photographer. And much later on, he's like quoted also as saying in a couple of stories that I just went there on an assignment. I have no idea that I have like changed the course of history for her and for Tamil Nadu.
That's true. And the thing is, when this happened, she outrightly said that she won't ever enter the assembly again unless she was chief minister.
Yeah.
And the media just lapped this up.
Yep. I swear. So they compared the situation to Draupadi from the Mahabharata.
Yep.
They pushed the narrative that, she was a woman out for retribution from a situation and she would succeed exactly like Draupadi did. And in this situation, whatever happened with her at the assembly premises, this would actually go on to fuel a decades-long rivalry between her and then Chief Minister Dr. Karunanidhi.
Yep.
And this rivalry is something that the media would focus on for so long, till her death in 2016. In fact, no Tamil Nadu election since that point, whether state level, corporation level, it would not be anything other than this rivalry, even if they were not even the ones that were standing in that constituency.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
To help best sum this up, here's a quote from the 2001 BBC article. Since 1989, Tamil politics have been dominated, some would say disfigured, by Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi's loathing for each other.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, but Jayalalitha did return to the assembly eventually, and this time she came as chief minister.
You go, girl!
So 1991, I know, good for her. In 1991, she was sworn in as chief minister of Tamil Nadu. This is a really big deal because when she was sworn in, she was also the first elected woman to hold that position in the state. Also, during her first term as chief minister, she refused to accept the salary check because she said she had abundant sources of income. So as a public servant, she just drew a salary of 1 rupee.
And please remember this because it is very, very important for later.
It is. After this, though, it was quite a tumultuous period. She lost power in 1996, where both the party and she personally in her constituency were defeated in the elections. Between 1996 and 2000, there were a string of cases against her for like alleged, instances of corruption and misuse of public funds. And I say string, I really mean it. There were several. So however, none of this changed the fact that the Tamil Nadu people still voted her into power again and again. In 2001, she began her second term as chief minister, and she would go on to serve 4 more terms of various durations till her eventual death in 2016. So from 1989 and 27 years hence, Jayalalitha essentially reigned over the IDMK with an iron fist. The party members, either due to respect for her or fear, would always bow before her at both public and private events. And they didn't mind doing it. They would do it. Over time, she came to be known as Amma, which means mother in Tamil, or Purechi Talavi, which means revolutionary leader.
And that kind of summarizes in a very rushed way the early life, career, and last years of our late former chief minister of Tamil Nadu, J. Jayalalitha. And I really mean it. This was quite rushed. Okay, we're just kind of trying to get through it all so we can talk more in this episode about all of the things she's done. But if you'd like to see her in action, both of us recommend that you check out the 2004 interview with Karan Thapar because, whoa, she's a firecracker there.
Oh, yeah. She should have just outrightly slapped him because that is essentially the way she speaks is so eloquent.
Yeah, it really is.
He really got a verbal slapping, that. I think, and in a way, I feel like kind of deserved it.
He's trying so hard to get under her skin.
Yeah, he's itching for a response from her.
Yeah, and she just stays calm, composed, and she, you can see her get angry, but she's like, no, can you stop behaving like this?
No. I think that was a really good interview, actually. There's another interview that's really good, a little more toned down, but you can see a much softer side of her. And this is the interview with Simi Garewal in 1999. That is, you can see a version of Jayalalitha that I think probably people in her inner circle might be privileged to see. She's a lot the atmosphere is really calm. Simi Garewal's voice is so calm that you can't be helped but lulled into that sense of But yeah, I think that's a slightly different version of her. And that's actually, I don't know, I really admire her in that interview particularly, actually.
Yeah. Or you can just read the transcript of her inaugural speech at the Rajya Sabha in 1984. Seriously, just read up more about her because it is a wild ride.
You know what else is a wild ride? All these other fantastic shows on IVM that you can hear about during the break. We'll see you in a minute.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM Podcast. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.
Welcome back after the break, everyone. So we just spent some time talking about the former Chief Minister Jayalalitha, trying our hardest not to fangirl during the whole thing. So here's the second woman of the famous duo, Sasikala. So Sasikala was born on 18th August 1954 in Chennai to a Tamil family. Her parents, Vivekanandam and Krishnaveni, were farmers and landowners. After she was born, the couple moved with her and her 5 siblings to Mannargudi. They were part of a community called the Kallars, and while they weren't rich, they were considered very influential. In 1973, Sasikala married M. Natarajan. So her husband was an employee in the Tamil Nadu Directorate of Information and Public Relations. At this time, the chief minister was Dr. Karunanidhi of the Timuka party. And this is how Sasikala was exposed to politics. I mean, Dr. Karunanidhi was actually present at her wedding, which is a huge honor. So the couple went through some hard times over the years. During the emergency, Natarajan lost his job and he remained unemployed from 1976 to 1980. It was during this time that Sasikala decided to work to support the family and started a video rental shop in Chennai. V. Chandralekha, so she's this very prominent female IAS officer in Tamil Nadu in the 80s. She had this to say about her. Sasikala used to come to tell me her stories, like how they were victimized, etc. She used to tell me that her jewels were sold and pawned to fight the case. She then set up a video renting shop in Chennai. Jayalalitha used to be one of her customers. She didn't know the films were taken for Jayalalitha, as it was a servant who used to collect the videos.
Dude, this story really merges very quickly, no?
There is so much more merging. So, over the next years, Sasikala slowly built her path to move closer and closer to Jayalalitha. V. Chandralekha had said that Sasikala asked her to be recommended as a videographer for functions and all of the events that Atimuka organized. Since Jayalalitha was the propaganda minister at the time, she was in touch with Sasikala for all of this. Sasikala was there for Jayalalitha's lowest moments, including the terrible way that the party treated her after Dr. MGR's death in 1987. In fact, at his funeral, she had to fight off scores of party members before she could reach his body. And once she got there, she stood by his body for 2 days till he was carried away for the burial. There are some sources that say that she was pricked with pins and roughly handled while at the funeral. And much later, when Dr. MGR's body was being carried away, she tried to get on the truck that was carrying his body and she was forcefully pushed off by party men.
Good God, okay.
Yeah, this was something that was like continuously played in the media a lot. I remember even my parents talking about it.
The video's up on YouTube. It's it's pretty violent, dude. She was just trying to get on and they just shove her off, you know. It's quite upsetting, actually.
Yeah, because it was also like a message, right, that the Atimuka party wanted to send out. And unfortunately, they sent it out in a very appalling manner. In any case, Sasikala and her husband Natarajan stood by her through all of this. They didn't leave her side through the power struggle till she gained control of the party in 1989. And they didn't leave her while the media tore into her and her former party members. They consistently spread the message that she was incapable, had not earned her position. And she recognized this solidarity. She recognized Sasikala and Natarajan's loyalty and handsomely awarded them for it.
Yeah.
In the same year that MGR passed, Jayalalitha asked Sasikala and her husband to move into her home in Poise Garden, which is like a very posh area of Chennai city. Some of my college friends used to live there actually, and they used to say that it's one of the areas that just never lost power or had water troubles or anything. So
Indeed.
Go figure. Yeah, but things weren't always happy at Poise Garden because in 1990, Natarajan was kicked out. And after that, it was just her and her trusted aide, Sasikala. Now, Sasikala, by the way, has said this multiple times over many years that she has no interest in holding public office or joining politics. It appears she was largely content with the idea of being an aide and advisor and working for the party's growth instead. In 2021, she said, and I quote, "I never wanted a post or power. I'm always thankful for the people of Tamil Nadu. I'm staying away from politics and I pray to my sister Jayalalitha and God for establishing a good governance. But since 1990, Sasikala effectively became Jayalalitha's voice in all the matters, whether it was administrative aspects of the party or running the Poise Garden household, scheduling Jayalalitha's visitors, or even controlling Jaya TV, which is like the party's Tamil broadcast TV channel. Even though Sasikala never held a post in public office, she is still thought to be like one of the most influential figure in Jayalalitha's life. So in the book, A Lone Empress, A Portrait of Jayalalitha, it's by writer and journalist Vasanthi. It is said that Jayalalitha was overwhelmed by Sasikala's decision to stay with her and support her. And Jayalalitha is quoted as saying, Sasikala has sacrificed her whole life in order to be with me and give me moral support and take care of me.
It's true though.
Yeah. The two women actually invoked quite a bit of devotion in their positions as politician and aide.
Yep.
In 1995, when Jayalalitha threw like this massive wedding for her nephew Sudhakaran, almost 150,000 guests were invited.
Damn.
And the common people all tried to figure out a way, just like they had to find a way to get in there and watch. This wedding, by the way, is very important for our case because it cost over 100 million rupees at the time, according to the income tax department.
Whoa.
So, yeah. And there were so many like, famous people. Everyone's wearing like lavish silk and gold jewelry. And it was just, I don't want to say ostentatious, but yeah.
But you gotta say it. But just hold on a minute. In 1995, during Jayalalitha's first term as chief minister, she was earning 1 rupee as a public officer, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then as an actress, she was in many movies, sure.
Yes.
Her last movie was in 1980, almost 15 years before this.
Also very correct.
Okay. So even if she invested really well, okay, whatever money she had, she invested it well. Let's assume she invested in, it's 995. Let's assume she invested in Yahoo.com stocks, okay, at the peak of the American tech bubble somehow.
Yes.
Even with all of this, how the hell did she have 100 million rupees to blow on her nephew's wedding?
Ah, yes. That is a very interesting answer, which you only tell.
I will tell. Cool. Okay, so here we are with these two, all right? Jayalalitha really trusted Sasikala and vice versa. They had a huge fan following. Jayalalitha had been chief minister for a while. They were basically leading the biggest regional party of the entire country. And things were going swimmingly well for them. But soon, they're going to be hit in the face with something that they were just not at all expecting. On 14 June 1996, a private complaint was filed by Dr. Subramanian Swamy before the principal sessions judge in Chennai. Dr. Subramanian Swamy, for all those who are not familiar with his special brand of verbiage that he uses on the evening news, he is a politician who is affiliated with the Bharatiya Janata Party or the BJP. And till just a few months before this complaint, he was working under Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. So his complaint was that Jayalalitha and her aides, after she assumed office as chief minister in 1991, had acquired properties and earned income that were disproportionate to her actual known sources of income. So this is what the complaint said, okay? And Nisha, stay with me here, all right?
Okay.
Between 1989 and 1990, she declared her wealth to be nil.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sure. In 1990-1991, it had increased to 18.9 million rupees.
Okay, that seems like...
So the next year, it was 26 million rupees.
Okay, no need to be suspicious, but I'm just wondering like...
In 1993-94, it increased to 913 million rupees.
What?
Yeah. And then for some reason, in 94-95, it dipped down to 380 million measly rupees.
Why? Did the price of Yahoo.com stocks go down?
You know what? It's in his complaint, Dr. Swamy also very cheekily pointed out that Jayalalitha was only getting a monthly token salary of 1 rupee. He specifically said that in his complaint. Okay. So essentially what he was trying to say is, guys, there's something weird happening here. Please look into it.
So there have been several points of disagreements and bad blood between Dr. Swamy and our Purachita Levi.
Yeah, so no love was lost between them. The media has reported on this quite extensively for a very long time. Okay. So we invite you to also look this up because there's a lot of background context to this.
Yeah.
In particular, and I really enjoyed reading this. I invite you to read this 1 News Minute article from 2016. The title of this article is Frenemies Forever.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's just a timeline of their relation, as in Dr. Swami and the Chief Minister Jayalalitha, their relationship, in the sense that politically what happened between them, which we don't really have the time to cover. I'm so sorry about that, but
too much.
it's quite a lot, okay? But go look it up. It's actually really interesting. I just really enjoyed the title. I just want to let you guys know. But let's look into the allegations specifically and what they mean from a legal point of view, okay? So like we said, the complaint alleged that Jayalalitha was responsible for amassing wealth that was disproportionate to her actual known income. And these complaints were filed under the Prevention of Corruption Act. So there were also separate cases filed under the Indian Penal Code for Sashikala, along with Jayalalitha's nephew Sudhakaran, the one who got married in that insane wedding, and Jayalalitha's niece Ilavarasi. So there were 4 people part of this case. So this is what Section 13 of the Prevention of Corruption Act talks about. It talks about criminal misconduct of a public servant.
It's misconduct.
Yes. It's us. It is the name of our show. So this section 13, basically lists out the instances where a public servant is said to have committed misconduct. One of those, subsection E, says, and I quote, a public servant is guilty of misconduct if he or any other person on his behalf is in possession or has, at any time during the period of his office, has been in possession, for which the public servant cannot satisfactorily account of pecuniary resources or property disproportionate to his known sources of income. So, let me just explain that, okay? Basically, you have some income. You state your income publicly if you're a public servant. And public servants don't really earn that much, okay? So, I mean, it varies, of course, but you would never earn enough to just like hypothetically have several kilos of gold lying around your house or something. Okay? So unless they can prove that the wealth came from somewhere else, like an inheritance or a gift, the presumption would be that they're holding assets that are disproportionate to their actual known income.
Okay.
By the way, the phrase known sources of income presumes you've earned that money legally. Okay. So yeah, you can't, if you didn't earn it, look, forget it. That's a whole other seed. If you didn't earn it legally, I cannot even get into that. But there's also the punishment angle. So the punishment for this sort of a crime is anywhere between 4 to 10 years. And there's also a fine, which is a little different from the other fines you would have seen. This specifically has to take into account the value of the property that you're holding. So a court, when they're deciding on the matter, has to take into account the quantum of the disproportionate assets and then decide on the fine. Keep this in mind. It'll come very, very handy later. So aside from this, there's criminal conspiracy, which is Sashikala has been charged for. That essentially means if you are if you are a party to a criminal conspiracy to commit an offense, even then you can be punished. So according to Section 120A of the IPC, which is where this comes in, it's actually not even important whether the illegal act that you want to do actually happens. The fact that you conspire to do it is just as important.
So it's like if you and at least one other person just catch up in a CCD and you're like, and then some illegal thing happens, you're also a criminal conspirator.
Yeah, that's essentially true. That is what the conspiracy is. So the punishment for criminal conspiracy really depends on the punishment for the actual crime. The punishment could be anywhere between 4 to 10 years.
Oof. Okay, so on that note, how about we take a quick break so you can digest all of the things that we've just said, or you can quickly pee. Although this is the podcast, it's just audio, you can just totally pause and pee whenever you want.
That's true.
But if you haven't, now is a good time. See you after the break.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam Gupta is joined by Gopal Agrawal, Senior Fund Manager, HDFC AMC Limited. They talk about the latest new fund offer, the HDFC Multi-Cap Fund. On Probation Se Promotion Tak, host Abhinav talks about leadership and how it can be nurtured. On Fin Talks at Bob World, Akhil is in conversation with Mukesh Kaldra. Mukesh is the founder and CEO of ET Money, and they discuss how Indians invest. Join the Simplified Trio as they break down complex causes, effects, politics, and cricketing mishaps caused by the intense air pollution in Delhi. Yeah, you heard that right, cricketing mishaps. And on Edges and Sledges, Ashwin and DJ talk about the first test match between India and New Zealand and the 2022 IPL retentions. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, do remember that many of our shows are available on YouTube. You can check that out by going to our website, ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, where we have a list of all of our various YouTube channels. Finally, we'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, HDFC Mutual Fund, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back, everyone. So we learned a couple of things before the break. One, basically, if you are a public servant in India and if the value of your assets acquired through the time is way above your known income, the presumption is that you have been doing some sneaky stuff and taking some side money from the government.
Yep.
This is what Jayalalitha was charged for. Also, if you conspire to do this with a bunch of other people, you and all those people are guilty of criminal conspiracy. This is what Sashikala was charged for.
That's exactly right. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I think what's important is that this was a high-profile case. Jayalalitha was a former chief minister of the state. If things went down, the state would burn. So it had to be handled very, very carefully. For a 3-month period after the complaint was filed, Latika Saran, a senior IPS officer, took up the investigation and collected records and documents from various sources. Latika, by the way, would go on to become Chennai's first female police commissioner.
Yeah, that's right, dude.
Yeah.
You know what? I think this entire episode is just full of strong, educated, powerful women. I mean, there's Jayalalitha, Sashikala, Chandralekha, Latika, and I didn't expect it when I started researching for this. But as I was writing this stuff down, dude, wouldn't this be the best political thriller ever made?
Ooh, it would be pretty cool. I would watch that.
I would put Tabu in every role. Every role is Tabu.
Yes. So this investigation was also stayed for a few months after that because the case was moved by the High Court of Madras to the Director of Vigilance and Anti-Corruption. This would happen a lot, by the way, this forum jumping.
Yep.
So during the investigation, a series of items and documents were collected from Jayalalitha and Sasikala's property. We found them all as part of this itemized list in the order of the special court instituted in Bangalore, specifically for the trial of criminal cases against Jayalalitha and her aides. The order was passed on 27th September 2014.
And we will get into the details of this order in part 2 of this, this episode. I would personally never miss a chance to quote the words of a judge because that means I didn't say those words. A judge said it. So I'm very excited in our next episode to quote everything a judge possibly said, just so nobody can come after us. Yeah.
Yes, but broadly, it just basically included like kilos and kilos of jewelry, silk saris, deeds to properties, bank accounts, deposits, many cars, including one HM Contessa, a car that Raghavi personally really loves.
Yeah, it's a very long boy car, okay? And I love long boy cars. Also, like Jayalalitha clearly had good taste. So
I haven't done this in a while, but you're fangirling.
Oh, no. I will stop now.
Just
please proceed.
Sneaked up on us, no?
It did. Oh.
So now the charges were finally read to Jayalalitha and Sasikala in June 1997. The facts that were determined were that between the two women, assets worth 66.65 crore rupees or 666 million rupees were found, which did not match the salaries and incomes that the two women were drawing. That the women had about 32 different firms registered in their names with various businesses listed in their books. However, some firms actually had no business activity from 91 to 96. Other businesses listed activities that were more in the nature of acquiring assets like land, machinery, building, which were not really production oriented.
Yeah.
So it wasn't clear yet where the money came from at all. Some of the bank accounts saw a sudden influx of cash in huge amounts starting from 91. Lastly, these properties that were acquired were not accounted for in their income tax returns. And you don't want to mess with the income tax department. And Jayalalitha herself hadn't filed her taxes from 1987 to 1993. Sasikala and the two other aides were allegedly holding these properties in their names as well. With all of these facts before them, the court allowed the prosecution to file charges under the Prevention of Corruption Act and for criminal conspiracy under the IPC.
Oh, okay. So whatever we've said so far, this is not even the most dramatic part of this whole
I
situation.
know.
This was
because-
just dumping context on your face. That's it.
Because after this, it's just like a series of things that happen before the matter can actually go to court.
Oh God, yeah. By the way, the final charges against Jayalalitha and co, they were framed in October of 1997.
Between November 2002 and February 2003, almost 76 witnesses were called to testify before the court. That's a 2-year-long witness questioning process. And many of these witnesses turned hostile and gave some very conflicting statements in court that the judge could not even submit as evidence, because that's how evidence laws work. Like, if you're not 100% sure about the evidence, then you have to dump it in the trash.
That is pretty much evidence loss summed up. But then in February 2001, the DMK had also called to move the case to another court because they feared that there was an impartial trial that may be conducted in Tamil Nadu. But lastly, a special court calls for a special public prosecutor. And that's when senior advocate B.V. Acharya was appointed as the special public prosecutor for this case. And between 2013, a whole new trial would be held all over again.
And on that note, we are going to stop.
Oh God, yeah, it's time. It's time. We spent,
It is time.
yeah, dude. Also, you know what? We spent a lot of time on the sources, the kind of reading. I've been reading for basically 2 months, okay? Since we went on hiatus after season 1, I have been reading for this. Mostly so we don't get into trouble. But so we spend a lot of time on these sources. Guys, I request you to go check out our blog. Everything that you need is right there, whatever you need to read, especially for this episode. Please go check it out.
I've actually really I was really looking forward to this episode, and I've been watching a lot of interviews as well. And I don't know, I feel like this part 1 has been like a fun little glimpse into like a glorious friendship. And I think Raghavi and I have just enjoyed telling the story so far. I think that's probably because we love a good crime story, or even alleged crime stories.
Yeah, and you know what? In the last few months, well, I mean, we have only been around for the last few months, but people have written to us that are saying, hey, some interesting things happened to us, or we know about this person who, like our last episode on Ceci Xavier, because people wrote to us and said, hey guys, can you cover this person, you know? So we love listening to your stories, guys. And you know our Instagram handles. Please reach out to us and tell us if you have anything interesting we'd like you to cover, or if something like this happened to you as well. You know my Instagram handle, I am at ragi.dosai.
And I am at just.nishful.thinking.
That's right. And please write to us. Tell us about your stories, crime or otherwise, you know, and we'd like to share them in one of our episodes. So please feel free.
If you have any stories, and we'll send you something. But only if you're in India. Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's right. We can't do international shipping yet.
Yet. I like that. I like the hope.
But let's do it. Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of our episode. We will see you on part 2 of our double episode next week on Misconduct.
See you guys.
Given the unprecedented times our nation is going through, where positive is now a dreaded word, Smile India gets you delightful news from across the country about people and places that continue to spread the much-needed hope and positive vibes. I am Shifa Maitra, and you can hear Smile India with me every Thursday on the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Oh, and did I tell you Smile India is available in both English and Hindi.
Remember the days when our granny used to narrate once upon a time stories? Let's bring back the good old days of moral stories with Storytime Tamil. Hi, I am Ravishankar Balachandran, host of Storytime Tamil podcast. I would like you to entertain and educate your children with stories from Storytime Tamil. Tune in to the new episode sharp at 7 p.m. every day on IVM website, IVM podcast app, YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast from.